to fire up the stream. So let's get this screen cleaned. And this week I was working on more of that landscape that I was doing last week. And I was also doing some character design, and I was also kind of wrestling with the question in perspective. And that question is, if you have an object in correct 2-point perspective, then you can find the vanishing points. And once you've found the vanishing points, you've found the horizon line. And if you've got the vanishing points and the horizon line and an object in the scene, it seems to me that you should be able to reverse engineer the station point out of that. But I don't know how. And I asked on Kara, nobody else seems to know how, or at least nobody's responded to that with any explanation of how in the last day or so. So this has put me, this is kind of annoying me because I want to figure out how that works. I want to figure out how locating the station point works, because everything I've seen about locating the station point is about figuring out precisely how far back from the scene you want the viewer to be standing. Well, I don't care where the viewer's standing. What I care about is this object in the focal point of my scene looks like this. And I know how big this object in the scene is. And I have the proper vanishing points for it, and they go to the horizon. But in order for me to measure and foreshorten anything, I need to figure out the station point. And it seems just really annoying that this has been so difficult to work out. I'll figure it out eventually. I just, haven't done it yet. But the other thing I've been kind of working on is a character design, and it's character designs for the trio of feral attack clowns that Alatar has under his robe. And I'm kind of designing these as a trio, and each of them, there's a torture aspect to them, and there's this whole horrible thing going on with them where they're tortured but they like it, and I'm building the designs around that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But first of all, let's talk about the work that I did on the shit landscape that we started with last week. So here we have that shit landscape that we worked on, and if you remember, we redid one of the rocks. So there's the rock that we redid, and that certainly looks better than this gray blob. And then I moved on from that, and the way that I built this rock was just to kind of use the medium gray to put stuff in, and then I kind of painted the light onto it with the highlight color. Now then, on the next rock, I kind of worried primarily about plane changes. And I just went, okay, what are the plane changes on this angular rock? And I did that just by kind of painting around, and I tried to paint little highlights on the edges of the rock over here. I'm not sure how well those work out. I don't really like those very much. You can see that I did them on this one as well, and I think they look better on this one, but I don't really know how I feel about those. They kind of feel cartoony. Then for the third rock, I did a lot of work with selecting and deselecting areas of the canvas to kind of to give it sharper edges where I thought it needed edges. And I tried to work a little bit on the cast shadow on each of these. I feel like this one came out kind of weird because it's got a definite edge, but it also kind of fades away. And you can kind of see me trying with these shadows to to have that fading away quality that real shadows tend to have. And then this one up here, where again the rocks are kind of rounded, I feel like having a consistent palette for these rocks was interesting, because this one ended up, this one down here in the bottom, that one ended up looking much darker than this one, and they're using pretty much the same palette. I just painted a lot more light onto these. Now then, for this one, for the big angular one with all of the facets on it, I think I did a better job of making it look coherent and cohesive. And also, if you kind of scroll in, you can see I did a whole lot of work with that fingertip blender that I like so much. So that was a thing that I did. And then this rock right here, I'm sure you've noticed the light is entirely wrong on this. So I tried to fix that, and I tried to fix the lighting source on it and get the planes to look more reasonable in terms of how they were reflecting. And on this one too, you know, I tried to do a reasonable job on the cast shadow, just like I tried to do a reasonable job on the cast shadow here. I don't know how well I did, but of course we also did some work on the trees, and we did a little atmospheric effect to give it some depth. And I feel like it came out looking a lot better, but I'm not sure it comes out looking, you know, layer 5 should really be up here on the top. And that doesn't look very good at all. Yeah, I don't really like that. But it should be up here on the top. I think it's too much. Maybe if I drop the opacity down a little, maybe that'll do it. I don't know, dropping it down to about 64 seems to work. 64, 65, I don't know. I need to figure out a way to make that look better. Anyway, I feel like progress has been made on the landscape when you take all of the rework stuff, you take that away, and you look at what I started with. It's like, here's what I started with, and here's what I did reworking it. And I feel like I did a pretty good job reworking it. And if I pull that off and have the new background on it, I think that ends up looking pretty good, except this bit right over here, where it's got that little bit of green showing through. Yeah, I got sloppy on some of the fills there. But yeah, I think there's a definite improvement when it comes to that. When you look at what I started with and what I ended with, I think it ends up looking a whole lot better. I think I made a lot of progress in building that. Duh. I should hope so, but that's kind of what I was working on there. I don't have anything to show you or talk about in terms of the perspective work I'm doing. But I have been kind of thinking about this whole facial expression and character design thing for the feral clowns, and this doesn't really show up well on my preview, but what I'm working on here is I'm working on kind of this horrible feral grin that well, there are 3 specific expressions that I'm working with. Okay, go over here to the main character design area. Okay, Electo, the unending rage, is she's based on a Harlequin archetype, and the whole idea here is that she's forced to smile by chains that are attached to her hat. And then you come down here and you have Atropos. Atropos is based on the Pierrette archetype. And the Pierrette is a specific kind of a specific type of clown in classical commedia dell'arte. And she's forced to frown by these chains that are hooked to her frills here. And I've also really been thinking about making her an incarnation of the Kuchisake Onna, which is a Japanese mythological figure, the slit-mouthed woman. A few crappy B movies have been made about her lately, and I'm kind of playing with that, and I like the idea. I'm just not sure how that will really reflect in the final design. But the entire idea here is she's got this big ruffle around her neck, and there will be chains hooked to her mouth that are forcing the corners of it down, that are pulling it open. And then Arachne, it's not her mouth that's the issue. For her throat's slit and the flesh is pulled open at the sides. The skin and the flesh are pulled away from the inner organs of the neck. And those are held open by chains with fish hooks that go through her nipples, which is like really gross and disturbing. And I kind of like that. I like that a lot. But this is all sort of, the idea here is kind of being tortured, but enjoying the torture. It's like this is part of who they are. It's part of their archetype, part of their personality. And while the name Alatar was one of the Blue Road Wizards of Middle-earth in Lord of the Rings, that's not where this comes from. It comes from the initial letters of the Feral Clowns. Alecto, Atropos, Arachne. Alatar, and that's Alatar. That's where that comes from. So I've been looking at the design for Alecto, and I've been going, okay, I need this kind of creepy grin. And one of the things that I'm thinking of on this is that for both Alecto and Atropos, the chains need to be hooked to something fairly rigid. So instead of having this nice frilly ruffle like you might expect, Atropos is going to have this angular kind of pleated steel thing that goes around her neck. And toward the back of it, toward the back of this, she'll have this big thing that's around her neck, like this. So she'll have this big thing that's around her neck. And I'm doing a bad job here because I'm doing this on the same layer that I was working on. But if we start with kind of a profile here, and we just kind of do a basic profile of a person. Then what we want here is we want this frill, this ruff, to go around her neck in this kind of wide, fashion, and it would be kind of pleated in angles like this. And then here on her mouth, this would be the side of her mouth right here. And if I do the slit mouth thing, it would come farther back, and it would actually be slit almost all the way back to the mandible of the skull. So it would come all the way back to here, and it would be hooked to bone. And that needs to come back behind the face. And the other thing with this is that when you've got somebody that has their mouth pulled open behind their face like this, okay? If they turn their head, if she turns her head in this direction, then this side goes a little slack, but this side gets really, really tight and it pulls. And you would get this kind of wrinkling effect on the side. So if she turns her head even slightly, then you get this effect where it's pulling harder at the side of her face. And that needs to be taken account of. And then, similarly, Alecto is wearing the classic sort of jester's hat that comes over and around, and the chains are hooked from the ends like this. But she can turn her head any way that she wants to, because when she turns her head, the hat turns with it, so. She's just got this terrible grin all the time. But for this to work, the hat has to be fairly rigid, so it needs to be made of something that doesn't flex. And what I was thinking of was having it made in a kind of a skeleton fashion out of rebar. I was thinking if I made it kind of industrial, but I was also thinking maybe we want to make it just sort of, shiny metal. That might also be a way to go with it, is just to say, this hat is welded steel. And we need to have some way to communicate that. And then, of course, you have Arachne, and Arachne is just kind of, she's got this slit in her neck, and it pulls over to the side, and these chains run down to her chest. And I think that's like particularly awful. And she's the truly tragic one, because she shows up with a roll of concertina wire and wraps up the body and carries it away. So that's kind of got this gore aspect to it. And I figure she'll wear like a fairly nondescript sort of hat. Now, as a Pierrette archetype, Atropos wears this big silly thing with pom-poms on it. And this is, these are just kind of the ideas that I'm playing with for all of these different characters. And when you're designing kind of an ensemble of characters like this, you want to have commonalities between the characters, but you also want to break the theme for each character so they have their individual personality. Like, it would be easy to do three basic Harlequin archetypes. And part of the problem with that is you can't do a Harlequin clown archetype as a female without immediately inviting comparison to Harley Quinn. So you have to come up with some way to go, no, this is not Harley Quinn because of reasons. And with Electo, it's really that she's just angry all the time. So it's like she's forced to smile by these chains, but she's not happy. She's angry. She is the unending rage. She's one of the Furies, so, you know, makes sense. If she's going to be a Fury, then she's got to be angry. And I've got to figure something out in terms of making the teeth look right. And I really want to have, like, not just the teeth fully bared. I also really want to have, like, a lot of gum visible, because that's fucking creepy. If you have somebody that's grinning at you, I mean, that's pretty creepy. But if they're grinning at you and you can see a whole bunch of their gums, yeah, that's worse. So I just think something kind of like that. And I'm not sure how exactly I'm going to render these, or exactly, like, or exactly which direction I want to take every single design. I do have kind of a makeup design for each of them, sort of, but it's not final, and I'm still playing with designs. I'm still playing with exactly how they're going to look and how exactly I want that to fit together. So I have these kind of reference images for each of them, and for Electo, I have obviously the kind of Harlequin outfits. And I'm not sure how I feel about the skirt. I'm not sure how I feel about her being in a skirt. The kind of plain skirt that kind of hangs off of a doublet design, that's not bad. I get on okay with that, but I'm not sure how I feel about this flouncy, floopy skirt on the top one. And I'm not sure about colors. I'm not sure what I want to do. I think maybe red and black would be good, but I'm not 100% convinced. And I wanted to carry a kind of mace that's basically the sort of the little scepter that jesters carry that has the little jester head on it. But I don't know. I want it to be like, I want the top of it to have like blades or something. It's a nasty, torturous weapon that she uses to beat the shit out of people. Now, Tropos is fairly obvious. She's just going to be baggy with the pom-poms and the ruffles. And I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do the makeup for her. I kind of like this interesting little thing I've got up on the top of the right-hand side. But I don't want to be too... I don't want to be too dramatic with it. Like with her makeup. She's kind of understated. And then Arachne is just like, I mean, she's just a basic mime, so I think she works well. I think, again, she does not need the skirt. She kind of needs the leggings going on here. And maybe thinner stripes on the top. But I'm still kind of playing with these, and I'm not 100% convinced of exactly how I want them to look. But I want to have this. I want to have this clear picture in my head of what all three of them look like. And I don't have that clear picture yet. Like, if I shut my eyes and I think about it, I don't really have a clear picture of what Alecto looks like. Like, I don't know what her makeup looks like. I don't know exactly how her smile looks. I don't know what her hat looks like. I don't know what her clothes look like. I know the poses that I want her in. I know the dynamics of how her body moves. But that's about it. And there's the big grin on her face, and that's more or less all. I kind of know how I want her facial features to look. I mean, I want her eyes to have this kind of downward component with very tiny pupils. And I want her eyes to be fairly close together. And I want her nose to be very kind of slender and aquiline. I have an idea of the facial features I want her to have, but what does her makeup look like? I don't know. So I'm still kind of thinking about that and still trying to figure out exactly how I want it to look and how I want it to play out. And obviously, I need to figure out what her makeup looks like. And I also need to kind of think about whether I want her to have more of a dark, sort of angry expression to those eyes. Because that's another direction I could go with that. Is to have very kind of feral animal eyes. And then that would make that big grin just that much more out of place. And maybe that's more her speed. That's a good possible sort of expression that she might have. Something like that. But I don't know. Maybe these eyes come across as crazier. You know? Like maybe that's more crazy. Not entirely sure on that. As far as the outfit goes, I mean, you want to work on the silhouettes, and what I've got here is I've got kind of, there's this slender, Electo has this kind of dynamic look to her, where she's kind of like crouching, leaning forward, has her arms out to the sides, like she's trying to catch you, she's trying to corner you. Atropos is just kind of sad and morose, and almost stately. And then Arachne is crawling on the ground half the time. So they're kind of recognizable from the outside, just by the way that they look, because you've got Electo's kind of spread out, and Atropos is standing tall, and you've got this kind of general configuration that that one of them's kind of vertical and one of them's kind of horizontal and one of them's kind of square in their general silhouette. But I don't know, that's not a very that's not a firm thing just yet. I'm still kind of working with it. But the thought process I'm using on all of this is you kind of have to. Well, what I'm working with is I'm starting with the fundamental concept, and I'm working with I'm working with some reference images and reference ideas. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do in terms of Electo's outfit. That bit in particular, like, what am I going to do with the skirt? Am I going to do something like this? Am I going to do something like this? Am I going to do something entirely different? What is the profile going to be? Am I going to give her the high heels? I don't think she needs the high heels. I think the high heels are a bad idea, so I'm probably not going to do that. Am I going to give her knee-high stockings, or am I going to give her full-length tights? I think I'm going to do the full-length tights. Are we doing full sleeves, or are we doing gloves? Not sure on that either. Not really sure on anything with her outfit, which is kind of annoying. I'd really rather have some kind of idea what I was doing with her outfit, but I don't just yet. I really do not have a clear idea of what I'm going to do with her. You know, the Tropos, it's kind of, Pierrette is an established silhouette. She's going to have like that classical look to her. But she's also going to have that tall, pointed hat. So that's pretty well done in terms of the costume design. I need her to carry a pair of scissors. That's important. Because one of the things she does is go up and you've got the guilty person that's being punished by the feral clowns. And first Electo goes and beats the shit out of them, and then Atropos goes and cuts their throat with a pair of scissors, just reaches out and snip. And then Arachne comes up and ties up the body in concertina wire and drags it back under Alatar's cape. And then he buggers off. And the idea there is that, like, he shows up and he goes, "Oh, you're the guilty party. Here are my feral attack clowns." And they take care of the punishment, drag the body away, and then he disappears, and along with him goes the guilty person. So it's, I don't really have a clear picture of what makes people guilty or not, but I don't think I need one. I think it's better if you don't know. It's like, what makes them guilty? I don't know. Maybe it's something you did. Oh, no. If it's something I did, he might show up for me. And that's kind of the idea. Arachne's outfit is going to be pretty easy to come up with. It's Electo that is the real design challenge. Because I also have to design this mace that she's carrying and beats people up with. And I'm not sure how to do that. I'm not sure what I want with that. But anyway, that's what I've been working on all week is thinking about this stuff and working on this stuff and trying to figure out how exactly I was going to do it. And what I need to do is I need to kind of get the individual pieces put together. And if I can draw the individual pieces of this stuff, then I can just put the pieces together and draw the whole thing. Like a hook on a chain is fairly simple to draw. And I just need to take that hook on a chain and I need to hook it to the appropriate place on both ends. That's the only thing that needs to be done. So it's like I got to work out exactly what expressions to draw, and then I just put together the props, get them attached where they need to be attached. I've been working on drawing noses lately. I've been working on slightly more realistic manga-style drawings rather than just sticking to anime. Because anime is stylized in a particular way. And I have some awareness of how to draw in a more realistic style, but I just don't do it very often. So, you know, I started looking at anime for that, or at manga for that. And in particular, I was looking at Junji Ito's manga. And Junji Ito's manga are really fairly simple. It's a reasonably easy thing to grasp. So it's not been very difficult. Now, Shindo L's work is far more detailed. And even though it's more stylized and closer to the anime format, that's mostly just the design of his eyes. And a lot of the stuff, the way he draws mouths in particular, is really detailed and really well done. I'm not very good at that just yet. And I do want to spend more time on that. But that's where I've been all week, is working on this stuff, the landscapes and the character design and all of that stuff. And I don't really have anything particularly insightful to say about any of this stuff. Because I'm kind of shooting in the dark. I don't really know what I'm doing with these designs. Usually when I'm working with a character design, I have some kind of clear idea what I want the character to look like. And in this case, I kind of don't. It's like I have a basic idea, but it's not specific enough to really do much of anything with. So that's kind of a problem, and that's it's just kind of where I've been all week long. Is working on this stuff. Scissors are hard to draw. That's something that I figured out. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got this week. Do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all that happy horse shit. And okay, bye.